Yeah, without LeBron, Lakers are strong.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboys
Get this win.
So
I don't know, Jack. It's a
how
big
much I hate
decision.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying space.
Pittsburgh at Buffalo.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I thought I was right. So anyway,
Yeah, Mac, you're really interested in these playoffs.
so
This is a presentation of Northeast Streaming Sports.
Good morning. You're listening to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on Northeast Streaming Sports.
good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Mac and Jack Sports Show on National Streaming Sports, Roku channel, YouTube, every other site that we are on presently. I'm your host, Mac, with your co-host, Jack Hirsch. And, of course, you know, being on Northeast Streaming Sports or National Streaming Sports now, me and Jack end up on different shows and all that stuff. I know Jack was on Prim and Proper Sports last night with Sonia Pearson, I guess probably talking about boxing and the latest fight and stuff like that. So, you can find us almost anywhere, really, folks. So,
Well, it was Sonia's show, Mac, so she set the agenda. But I enjoyed being on with Sonia an awful lot. I mean, I had a great time, except when she started talking about the transfer portal. In college, I told her to talk to you about it. Don't bother. It's not newsworthy now. Don't bother me with it. Basically, I told her. So to her credit, she kind of switched the topic and indicated she'll speak with you about it in the future, not me.
Good. I mean, Keith Angle is probably the expert in all that, and he gets into that stuff. I mean, I'm into. I got to report on what I see, but I mean, as far as I agree with you, it can make it very boring.
Matt, you got your way. Even with the NBA playoffs, and we were supposed to lead with the Celtic Pacer game yesterday, we led with the transfer portal. You got your way on that. So let's now move on to the NBA.
I agree, Jack. And I thought if Indiana was going to take a game at Boston, it would be this game coming off the long series with the Knicks, and this was their chance to at least get one game in Boston. That would have gave them a chance in the series. Not that they're out of it, but probably tomorrow they don't win. They're probably going to have to take two games in Indiana. The Celtics snatch victory in a big shot by Jaylen Brown, three-pointer to get him into overtime, winning overtime. Tatum with 36 points, 12 rebounds, nice pickup. Drew Holiday with 28 points, and of course Jaylen Brown kicked in his 25 points. I think Indiana is good enough under the right circumstances to beat Boston. But to win 4 games now instead of 3, Jack, that's going to be hard to do.
Everything had to go right for Indiana to win this series. Are they capable? Sure, I picked Boston in 5 games, but I picked Indiana actually to win last night, the opening game, because they were riding a certain wave with their record-breaking shooting in Game 7 against the Knicks. I thought it would carry over into this game, and it should have carried over. Inexcusable. They had a 3-point lead. They had the ball with 10 seconds left, and they turn it over. If they don't turn it over and they get fouled, they go to the foul line. And it's probably a 2-possession game at that point, and the Celtics don't have timeouts left. Yet they turn it over. Jaylen Brown makes a great 3-point shot from the corner when he was fading away. He shouldn't have been able to get that spot in the corner, or they should have gotten fouled, the Celtics, immediately, or whatever strategy you think they should have used. It could go either way as far as that goes. But Indiana let it get away. And now their window, which wasn't open by that much to begin with because the Celtics had a better team, is virtually closed. you said it best, Mac. They have to win 4 games now instead of 3. Okay, out of the next 6 games instead of splitting. And they have 3 at Indiana, meaning if they won 2 out of 3 in Indiana, they would just have to win 1 out of 3 in Boston had they won yesterday. But they didn't win yesterday. And even if they win game 2, which I could see Indiana maybe bouncing back and winning game 2, going forward, I mean, it's still going to be a tough task winning 3 out of 5, an extremely tough task against a superior team. You know, this reminds me of, Mac, when the Cleveland Cavaliers with LeBron James, his last year with the Cavaliers before he went to Miami, not when he came back to the Cavaliers. The Cavaliers in the finals, they're playing the Golden State Warriors, a better team than them. Game 1, they have the game basically won, and they somehow let it get away. And they wind up losing a game in which they outplayed Golden State. And that was it. Their window closed. If they were able to snatch that game, they'd probably still lose the series. But all of a sudden, things change. Maybe the team you're playing presses a little bit. Maybe gain a little more confidence. Indiana, their window, I mean, really is just about shut now as far as I'm concerned.
I agree with you 100% on that. And, you got Dallas at the Timberwolves tonight. To me, all the pressure is on Dallas, Jack. This team was supposed to, when they picked up Kyrie Irving, this team was supposed to be automatically a championship contender. Minnesota, to me, is playing, this is all gravy for them right now. I mean, they didn't think they were going to go this far. Nobody thought they were going to go this far. Nobody thought they would get by the Denver Nuggets. And Dallas is primarily the same team.
I picked them to win the series against the Denver Nuggets. I don't want to hear nobody. Mac, and I got to cut you off here. But this isn't gravy for Minnesota. Minnesota's a better team than the Dallas Mavericks. They expect to win. And they should win this series.
I'll give you this, Jack. They had the second best odds, Boston first to go to championship. I'm saying that when they picked up Kyrie Irving, and that we're not talking about this year, we're talking about when they picked up Kyrie Irving, this team was projected to be a championship team almost right away. And I think that Minnesota, to me,
no, they weren't.
Well, that's from everything I saw on the sports shows that everybody's talking about them having a chance to go to championship. So a very good chance.
They're a contender, and they've lived up to that. They were in the Final Four. They weren't considered
last year they sure didn't live up to it. I'm saying, Jack, the only point I'm making is the Denver and Dallas team are very similar. They got 2 great players, just like Denver had. Kyrie's going to have a very good championship or a very good series here for them to get to the championship. I picked the Wolves to win too, but that was, I think we were in a minority. I think most people thought the Nuggets, being the ex-champions, would win this. From the experience point of view, that Minnesota being the younger team. I think if Kyrie has a good series, Dallas has a good shot. If he doesn't, and he put up 2 bad games in the last series, if he does that again, Minnesota goes in, Jack.
I mean, Dallas has a shot. They have a great 1-2 with Luka and Kyrie. You forget, Mac, when Kyrie went to Dallas, he went as a wild card. His talent was recognized, but coming from Brooklyn with a lot of controversy, he was out a lot with injuries. We didn't even know whether that would be a good signing for Dallas. They weren't projected as any type of championship team, but it was thought if they could get Kyrie Irving at the top of his game and he could buy in, they're going to be a contender, just like the Phoenix Suns were contender. Phoenix Suns were considered more of a championship contender with Kevin Durant than Dallas was with Kyrie. Dallas was considered a possibility that if they put it all together, maybe they could, make a run during the playoffs, and they have. They've won 2 series. They beat the LA Clippers and they beat OKC. They beat 2 good teams. Now they're playing a Minnesota Timberwolves team that's just simply better. Just simply better. You have Karl Anthony Towns. You could put him on Luka. Luka's not going to run over Karl Anthony Towns. You put Anthony Edwards opposite Kyrie Irving. Kyrie's not better than Anthony Edwards. I mean, maybe you could call those two matchups a wash. But then you have Rudy Gobert off the boards. You have Mike Conley playing the point. You have a strong bench for Minnesota. Dallas could win the series. I mean, they're a little more than a long shot, but it's going to be hard for the Mavs to do it. But the Mavs have to extend the series, and then anything could happen as far as that goes. Because look, Minnesota against Denver, they went up to 2-0 lead. They looked invincible winning the first two at Denver, and they then lose 3 in a row. And the first 2 of those 3 won their home court, which indicates they can be had. They can be had. But can Luka and Kyrie together get it done? I'm hearing everything about Kyrie. Well, this is a new Kyrie. He's matured a lot. Really, he's matured. Just look at Kyrie's history. When he was with the Cleveland Cavaliers, there were no problems when he was with LeBron James because Kyrie wasn't the leader. He wasn't the leader of that team. He wasn't the main voice. He had to defer to LeBron. Then he goes to Boston. They have problems. Kyrie's, I don't want to see a head case, but he's controversial. Then he goes to the Brooklyn Nets. Nothing but trouble because Kyrie was in leadership roles at both places. And he's clearly not an effective leader unless he's an understudy. Now he's with Dallas. Yeah, he's kind of a leader within the team, but Luka's the main guy. If you give Kyrie the power, you make him the main guy, where he has complete control to run the ship how he wants. His history is not good, but Luka, make no mistake about it, Luka is the main guy at Dallas and carries the most clout, the most power there completely. It was kind of like with the New York Yankees. You could have a guy like CC Sabathia who could have been the real leader in the clubhouse, but Jeter was the one that had the power. And it's the same at Dallas with Kyrie and Luka. Kyrie has to defer to Luka, even though the two of them, by all indications, get along well.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, Jack. Good morning, Rick. Glad you joined us this morning.
Hey, Rick.
Jack, LeBron James, when he's all said and done, of course, he's going to have an unbelievable legacy. Now, you look at somebody like Dillon Brooks, who is a good defender, a good player. He's not great by any means. He's a good defender. His villain role versus LeBron James. I mean, when we talk about LeBron James many years from now, I think you would have to maybe mention Dillon Brooks in that the hassles he gave LeBron, even though it didn't work. I mean, it was a very public thing. I think he's kind of sealed his legacy along with LeBron James, just by being the villain in that matchup, Jack. So,
well, LeBron lit Dillon Brooks up. Dillon Brooks is a good defender, but it's unfortunate that he acts like a clown. And his legacy will be linked to LeBron James in a sense, not as a great player, but someone who was a pain in the butt, not on the court holding LeBron, but in his actions. Look, there was another player like that from Brooklyn, a pretty good player, Lance Stevenson, good player with the Pacers. The problem with Lance Stevenson, he did the same thing guarding LeBron. He would blow kisses to LeBron. And instead of people appreciating Lance Stevenson from Lincoln High School in Brooklyn, instead of them appreciating his talents, people would look at him in a sense like he was Lance the Clown during that time, like he was a clownish guy to act so silly on the court. Just let your play do the talking. God LeBron. If you like to talk to other players, talk to LeBron the same way you talk to them if you want. But don't make these over-the-top gestures that everyone notices. I mean, to Dillon Brooks, you look at him and you kind of laugh at guys like that. Same thing with Patrick Beverley, who charges guys from behind when they're not looking and shoves them. Patrick Beverly should be out of the league altogether pretty much if he does that again. It should have been given steeper penalties. But in Adam Silver, you have a commissioner who basically is scared to make the players' union unhappy. You take a cheap shot at a player, you charge him from behind when he's not looking and you blindside him, you could cause serious injury. Suspend them for the whole darn year. But the NBA treats players like Patrick Beverly like they're bigger than the game. Oh, so what do? They give him a 2-3 game suspension. Oh, geez.
Well, in Dillon's case, it's not from his play. I mean, like I said, he is a good defender, but it's just the link to LeBron. And, I think, let me give you an example.
Well,
Bill
he hasn't been in the
Laimbeer
news this year, not last season. He with Dylan Brooks, when he was with Memphis, there were, the Grizzlies, there was that rivalry going on with the Lakers, how he would be acting, and then he got his comeuppance against LeBron in the playoffs, but it hasn't been in the news lately, so I know how Dylan Brooks
No. I was just reading this article about LeBron James' legacy, and I'm thinking, some players get legacies from not being great basketball players. The Detroit Pistons and the Bad Boys there, you had some great players on the team, and you just had guys that were just roughhousing with everybody, and they got reputations. And Bill Laimbeer will always be maybe the dirtiest player in the NBA just because of what he did on the court. Not that he was a great center, So that's what made me bring it up, Jack. Bill
Laimbeer was a good player, though.
He wasn't a great center. I wouldn't put him up as a great center amongst centers.
I said he was a good player, Mac. I didn't say he was a great player. I said he was a good player. Leave it at that.
I said the same thing. I'm just saying that that's how Bill Laimbeer will be remembered. Anyways, John Morant's friend, Cincinnati Bengals defensive back Devontae Pack, had the assault charges dropped.
Jay Morant, Jay Morant from the Memphis Grizzlies, you mean?
Right, John Morant.
Yeah.
His friend, the Cincinnati Bengals cornerback, his charges are now, his criminal charges are now dropped. Of course, there's still civil suits going on back and forth there about, the teenager getting punched. They're saying that's probably self-defense. But it was in John Morant's house. I mean, I don't know how you prove it one way or the other. Point being is that the serious charge of assault was dropped. The civil suits are still going on. So that's a little update for that over there. We talked a little bit, me and Jack on the side before one of the shows, Glove Fist, about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Probably going to be some major changes next year. They really didn't score like they thought they would, between Devontae Mitchell going to the Knicks and the other point guard. And maybe not going, and then maybe his cohort in the backfield, Darius Garland might go. One of the two big guys might get traded. The head coach is, it's rumored that he might be on the hot seat. He might be gone. I mean, that team I think is going to look a little different next year, Jack.
Yeah, the one player the Knicks might be able to work out a deal with, and it would be massive if they could. The one player of all the teams in the NBA would be Jared Allen of the Cavaliers. I mean, he would really clog up the middle. The Knicks have pretty good rebounding right now, at Hartenstein, Robinson when he's healthy. But if they could somehow work out a deal with Jared Allen, which you never know, they might be able to do, it would be big. I'm going to tell you, if I would actually make this deal, and I think Cleveland might make it too, because they need a different spark. I think I would trade even up. If I'm the GM, and this is bold, Julius Randle for Jared Allen, even up, 1-1, if the Cavaliers are willing to make the deal, because the Cavaliers clearly have to do something themselves. They're good enough to get to the playoffs, but this is 2 years in a row that they got eliminated, early on. I mean, they beat Orlando this year, so they took at least one extra step than they did the year before when they lost to the Knicks in the first round. But against the Celtics, even though they won one game, they were never a serious match for the Celtics. I know a couple of the losses were close games, but the Cavaliers have about maxed their talent with the roster they have. Julius Randle might give them this extra little step up because they have Mobley, who would be given more responsibility to rebound if Jared Allen went to the Knicks, and Julius Randle would certainly add a lot of scoring punch. And I think it would be win-win for both teams. Mac is stunned over that deal over there. But with the Knicks too, until Mac comes back, we could chat about this. You know, a lot of people are talking whether this has been a good year for the Knicks or not. And a lot of people want to put a spin on it. Oh, what a wonderful year this for the Knicks. And they're saying with the Knicks, should they run it back with the group they have? And maybe they should have. I wouldn't force a big deal. I wouldn't tear up the roster because there's a certain chemistry. If you can't make a viable deal for Julius Randle, he comes back. Robinson comes back. Bogdanovich, you know, if everyone is healthy, there's a certain chemistry there that maybe the Knicks could take a run at the NBA title, perhaps, if everyone stays healthy. But if you look at but you could say that about all the teams, Mac, every single one of them.
Yeah,
Randle is every single one of them, if they stay healthy, they're going to be better than they were a year before. I mean, obviously, some of them aren't going to have a championship, window. And then you look at certain players that are going to be available, like a Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks. But what do you get for Trae Young? If he hasn't elevated the Hawks, you think he's going to elevate your team?
I don't know. I think Trae Young is just a piece. He's not a legit star. Never really thought he was. I mean, he had a nice shot from the outside, but I never thought he was a legitimate. Yeah, but I never thought he would be a legitimate star for a long. He's just not. He's just not. He doesn't remind me of somebody like a Brunson or a Tatum or somebody that can get to the hoop all the time. He's more from the outside. I think. Listen, Julius Randle. If we had Julius Randle in the playoffs this year, there's no doubt in my mind we beat the Pacers. There's no doubt in my mind that we would give the Celtics everything they could handle. Point being, you just said injuries, Jack. How many years in a row has it been Randle's been hurt at the end of the year? It's been, 2-3 years now. And maybe they got to figure out a different way to play him during the season, Jack. Maybe don't play him as much. Maybe they, because they can win without him. I already showed that. They got to be careful, I think, with Randle more. He's getting older, and he's definitely 1A over there. I think they do, Jack. I think they got to be more careful with him. Maybe Tibbs is going to push his starters. Maybe he's got to kind of come off that a little bit more. Maybe
I don't know if the injury prone that guys get injured. It does. He's not a player who's perennial, who's injured year after year. Last year he was pretty, healthy, and this year he just got hurt and didn't bounce back. I mean, it happens. It does.
But I get it, Jack. I remember last year he wasn't as good as he was the year before as far as being healthy. Randle may have hurt their chances too much 1-1. I don't agree with that, Rick. I don't agree. First of all, Randle didn't play for the playoffs. Brunson did, and Brunson had to go 1-on-1 for the Knicks to win pretty much. I mean, he had to penetrate. Wonder,
would the Knicks be more effective, Mac, if Randle went there? Because Brunson wouldn't have been a one-man show as far as scoring.
Yes.
He would have had to defer to Randle somewhat. Brunson could have still been the main guy and probably would have been the main guy, but he would have given up a certain amount of shots. He wouldn't have been able to play with that reckless abandon. Okay?
Yes, Jeff. I think the whole team. I think Josh Hart doesn't get hurt because he was the only one doing rebounds. Randle's gonna be is a rebounding machine underneath. I don't think Hart gets hurt as bad. Listen, you're gonna be injured. It's the degree of injury, right? If you can still play, it affects you a little bit, fine. But listen, and even Rick, if he played, to me, Randle's an unbelievable assist guy underneath too. He finds people under the boards and makes some nice passes. So I don't think it
Well,
hurts
Mitch
them at all. In
Robinson
fact,
being out for the Knicks, hurt a little bit too.
oh sure,
But yeah,
sure,
but the point is the Knicks shouldn't force a deal. If they can make the right deal,
agree.
you make it. It's going to be a little bit of a gamble, any deal you make, but you wonder, I mean, what are their chips basically? It would look to me like it would be maybe Randall and Robinson would be their, two players that other teams would be interested in. But keep this in mind, the reason Randall wasn't traded last year in the offseason, there wasn't a big enough demand. What they would have gotten back in return wouldn't have improved the Knicks team. So they looked at the type of deal you could make. You don't trade a guy just for the sake of trading him unless he's absolute poison in the locker room.
Right. I agree with that too, Jack. Little news about Bronny James, and it's kind of funny to me how they talk about Bronny James, and he's a young kid right now. Some NBA execs are saying that he's a legitimate pro prospect. I would disagree with that, and he should be on every team's top 100. Well, if you say top 100 isn't a great NBA prospect, Jack. I mean,
No.
So I mean, go ahead. I don't know. I don't want to.
He was rated a couple of ways. He's definitely unmerited alone. If he wasn't LeBron's son, okay, if he wasn't his son, he definitely wouldn't be a first-round draft choice, okay?
Great.
And that might not happen anyway, regardless. Would he be a late second-round pick? Perhaps very late in the second, maybe at this point. Chances are he wouldn't even go there. He would be, after the first 2 rounds, he might get signed as a free agent. He's a pretty good defender. Is he good enough to make it a roster on his own if he wasn't LeBron's son? He'd have to go back to college. You can't come off the type of year he had at college. He hardly ever played. He wasn't impressive. He never got his college career underway. Why not play another year in college? I don't get this, Mac. If his family needed the money badly and they were living in poverty and he thought he could get a spot in the NBA and they got to get out of poverty, then a desperate situation, I can understand that. But then again, he probably wouldn't make a team because he wouldn't be LeBron's son. Can he develop into a good NBA player? Yes, he could, I suppose. Because keep in mind, at one point, he was rated as a solid number 1 draft pick. Then medical issues, his game fell off a little by not having a chance to really play much in college. He's got to get back to where he was before. Then he's a viable NBA player coming off the bench, being a defender, and I hate to mention names like this, but maybe a poor man's version of Dylan Brooks. Good enough to hold an NBA roster spot, good enough to be a pesky defender, and take it from there. I think LeBron feels his son could be an impact starter in the NBA. And LeBron is a good father, no mistake about it. LeBron is a wonderful dad, but he's caused his son harm professionally. Personally, he's a great dad, and he'll put his son ahead of himself. But LeBron got carried away in the beginning. Well, I'm going to go play with Bronny no matter where he goes. I'll play for league minimum if I have to. Right there, he put Bronny in a bad spot. A really bad spot. Then to have him and his sons on the cover of Sports Illustrated. So Bronny is all over the news now, and you can't get away from it. I'm interested all the time what's going on with Bronny. I can't help myself. Now LeBron is saying he's just a kid. Leave him alone. Well, you put it out there, LeBron. You put it out there.
Yeah, agree. And I whatever happens to him. Listen, I don't wish the kid bad luck, I think hopefully he has a decent career. But being in the shadow of LeBron James is tough. Even if you're great, it's going to be tough because there's going to be comparisons. Maybe not so much. Maybe he doesn't get compared because he's not that good, Jack. Maybe it's just that's LeBron James' son, and he's a good player, and that's it now.
Well, I'm rooting hard for Bronny. I really want to see him make it. He's not going to be as good as LeBron. Who the heck is going to be as good as LeBron?
Very few.
Look at a number really good at NBA players. Bronny James could be an excellent NBA player. Let's say he's even an all-star. He'll get compared to LeBron, and you're never going to be as good as LeBron. I mean, come on. So who cares what people say? You put it out of your mind. Is he good enough to make an NBA team? An NBA team will draft him. They'll put him on the roster. Is he good enough to stick and help them? I mean, sometimes the players are along just for the ride. Look at Giannis. His brother's on the Milwaukee Bucks. If it wasn't for Giannis, his brother wouldn't be on the Bucks. And no one is comparing the two brothers.
Not at all. Not at all. So let's jump into the NFL, Jack. We're about the halfway point. Justin Jefferson, contract year, holding out during OTAs. He'll probably be taking Minnesota Vikings stuff off his social media. It seems like this is the way that the players go today. Ayuk with San Fran is doing the same thing. But this is it for him. Justin Jefferson will get signed for an extraordinary amount of money that I don't know if you think he deserves it or not. The problem with Minnesota is not wide receivers right now. The question is, who's going to start a quarterback? How good Sam Darnold can play this year?
Starting a quarterback.
How good J.J. McCarthy really will be as an NFL quarterback. There's a lot of questions with Minnesota. Their defense, Justin Jefferson is not a question to me, Jack.
Yeah, I shouldn't jump to conclusions with Sam Darnold for sure. If J.J. McCarthy clearly looks better in training camp and he looks mature enough to the Vikings to start immediately, it's possible he'll start ahead of Sam Darnold, even though that's not the plan. Excuse me. What's with these owners, Matt? Why can't they just tell Justin Jefferson you have a contract? You have to report. You want to hold out? Then sit out the year. We're going to move on without you. You're going to lose your money. You're going to hurt your value going forward. Stay home. But these teams think, oh, we need Justin Jefferson to win. We want to make him happy. We don't want him to be upset. He's a captain on that team. He's a leader on that team. He's done things the right way by all indications, Justin Jefferson, but he wants his money. So you're going to hold out. You're going to hold out. Look, the Chiefs did that with Chris Jones last year. People forget their great defensive lineman, Chris Jones. He missed the first game of the season against the Lions in Kansas City, and he was sitting in the stands in Kansas City watching the game when he should have been on the field. Because he had this great history with the Chiefs, they came to an agreement. They worked something out. How badly did the Vikings want to work something out with Justin Jefferson? They obviously want him there, but at what price going forward? Is he going to be worth that price? That's the question. But if you're set in your ways and you figure you're a team, we can only pay him this amount of money. We're not going to pay him more because he's going on strike and he's not showing up. Let him stay home now. What leverage does Justin Jefferson have if the Vikings take a hardline stance? None, because he's under contract. He has none. He can only hope for public pressure if the Vikings lose games, Mac. If the public gets on the Vikings and they give in.
Yeah. That will be the pressure, Jack. That's the advantage he has, and there will be pressure if they're losing without Justin Jefferson. I mean, you look at Rick. I know he's scared to death that Justin Jefferson doesn't play. He's got you guys in London. He's got us the first game, which the Vikings will lose to the Giants the first game with or without Justin Jefferson. But the point being is I think that's where all the stars in the league have, Jack, right? They have the fan support. The fans want to see him out there, and that's where the pressure comes from. Listen, I don't know. Justin Jefferson is one of the better wide receivers in the league. Is he the best? I don't know. He's one of the top. How much do the Vikings lose without him? What are the points? And with a new quarterback, Jack, what kind of points are they expecting not to score without Justin Jefferson? I think that's what they'll be looking at. They do have a decent wide receiver core there. He is a captain, as you say, but captains and want to make their money too, Jack. That's just the way it is.
And if they traded Justin Jefferson, these other teams have cap restrictions. Chances are they can't work out a deal with him until next year. That's the thing.
Right.
And just because he goes elsewhere, and what would it be worth to a team to trade for Justin Jefferson? I mean, some people just for fun have linked him to the Jets because he showed up at some voluntary thing. I didn't hear the news on that. I mean, I didn't read about it. I heard something about it.
Let's
say the Vikings called the Jets, and they wanted to know what the Jets would give them for Justin Jefferson. Would he be worth the number one draft choice next year? Absolutely. But that wouldn't be enough for the Vikings, just one number one. They'd ask for two number ones. I wouldn't give them two number ones for the next 2 years.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. But I add on to the number one? Would I give them a number one next year, a number two 2 years later, and then a number four, a 1-2 first rounder, second round, and a fourth rounder to get Justin Jefferson? Sure, I would work that out. But is that quite enough for the Vikings to give up, the guy who's arguably the best receiver in the game, arguably?
Yes. And Rick, you know something? It's going to be an outstanding matchup. The two quarterbacks taken in the first round will probably be playing against each other, Sam Darnold and Daniel Jones. That should be a hoot. I'll tell you that right now. Okay. So everybody knows Simone Biles. She just won a championship. She's going back to the Olympics. She has of course, a husband in NFL. I think it's the Chicago Bears.
I thought it was the Packers. Maybe I'm wrong. No, I might be wrong.
You might be right. I know it's the NFC North.
Yeah.
Her husband is Jonathan Owens. She's kind of lashing back at her fans and people calling him Mr. Biles. Instead of she kept her first name. So, Jack, if you marry a famous woman's
kept the last
athlete
name, you mean?
Yeah, I mean, I if I were her husband, I wouldn't like it, but I would understand it. I mean, she's probably top 3 famous female athletes in the world, right? She's up there with maybe even more popular than Caitlin Clark worldwide anyway. She's up there with Serena Williams. I mean, as for being famous, a famous female athlete. So I would understand it. You're pretty much a player in the NFL. You're not famous, and they're going to kind of give you a hard time about that. But hey, good for her being the wife standing up for her husband. I like that a lot.
I know she's been very supportive. She's been a classy athlete all along. The only advice I would give her, if let's say I had a chance to sit down with her, I'd say don't go on social media and lash back. I'd sit down with her and her husband. You know what your relationship is. All you have to do is express your feelings to your husband, telling him how much that bothers you, how much it angers you, and that'll be good enough for him. You don't have to go back at people and they go back to you. Anytime you get into it in social media back and forth, usually nothing good comes of it.
I agree. You're just giving them what they want because that's exactly what they want you to do. Mike Tomlin gives Steelers quarterback Russell Wilson the pole position, but it's far from over. He says it's definitely a competition. Justin Fields says he's not there to back up Russell Wilson. He's there to start. Very healthy. I like it. Russell Wilson likes it. He says they're pushing each other. It seems like their relationship is good right now. Jack, Justin Fields, I think, is starting this year sometime.
I believe so, too. But I'm going to be honest about it. You could take this version of Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson will be in the Hall of Fame someday. But you could take the way Russell Wilson has been the last 3 years or so and take the Russell Wilson of right now and take the Justin Fields of right now. You could take the best of both guys and combine them, and they don't come close to being an elite quarterback. They don't come close. It kind of reminds me of when two kids were cheating on a test, the story of a teacher telling them, you could cheat off one of it's okay, because I could take both your grades combined and you're not going to pass when all's said and done. Let them have the competition. And listen, can they manage games? Both guys can manage games. If the running game is working well, the defense is playing great, Steelers find a way to win every year. Tomlin has this long streak of winning seasons. There's no reason why they shouldn't have a winning season again. But I don't expect either guy to be a difference maker at all.
I don't think they have to be, Jack. If like you said, the Steelers are a well-coached team. They were in the playoffs last year. They've all been over 500 since Tomlin took over. I mean, look, if they can be a nice part of the team, Steelers got a chance. But look at the other teams in their division, Matt. The Bengals, the Ravens, the Browns. All three have quarterbacks that are difference makers. Joe Burrow is a difference maker, big time. Lamar Jackson, the league MVP, is a difference maker, big time. Oh, come on, Matt. You're hateful Lamar Jackson. We'll get back to that. Deshaun Watson, if he gets back to what he was, he is a major difference maker. Russell Wilson isn't that type of quarterback. That's a big if. Big if as far as Watson goes. Lamar Jackson is great during the regular season. That's all I got to say about him. Burrows has been hurt. We don't know. We don't know what we imagine he'll be as good as he was before he got hurt. We'll find out. Listen, the Steelers can match them defensively. They can match them. They may have better running games than a couple of those teams right now. They can match them in special teams. They need a quarterback that can go in there and not turn the ball over, that can make some plays. They got an athletic quarterback in Fields. They got an experienced quarterback in Russell Wilson. I say they got a good chance as any. And
the point is, out of the four quarterbacks, and let's combine Wilson and Fields into one. But the other three teams have better quarterbacks. Clearly better. Burrow is miles ahead of the Pittsburgh crew. Miles ahead of them.
Yes,
Lamar Jackson is miles ahead of those guys.
I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you, Jack. I'm just saying Justin Fields is just as much an athlete as Lamar Jackson. Russell Wilson has more experience than any of those quarterbacks. Deshaun Watson still hasn't become what they thought he would become. There's question marks in all the teams this year, Jack. I think Pittsburgh Steelers defense
but it's upside. Russell Wilson is not the player he was. He's kind of on the downside. Can he rejuvenate his career? It's doubtful. Listen, if Russell Wilson was his old self in his prime, let's make believe he was in his prime, there wouldn't be any talk of a possible quarterback competition. Everyone would be saying to Mike Tomlin, are you out of your mind, saying that Justin Fields might be starting over Russell Wilson? It would be ludicrous if that were the case. But this is a diminished Russell Wilson. We don't know what we're getting. Maybe Russell Wilson will wage a great comeback and get back to what he was a few years ago. If that happens, great, then it's his job. And if Justin Fields takes over the starting job, the point is at 3 seasons with Chicago, he's not proven. You could say, well, he got better as he went along, but he's far from being a top caliber NFL quarterback. If the Bears thought he could be that, they never would have traded him, for just a 3rd or 4th round draft pick, depending on how I
don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I guarantee you, and they went to the playoffs last year with a guy named Pickens. Both of those quarterbacks are better than Pickens. That's all I'm saying.
Justin Fields and Kenny Pickett. Yeah, I would give Justin Fields an edge there. Russell Wilson, but that's not saying much. I mean, I understand what you're saying. But listen to this. At the end of the season, they didn't really go to the playoffs with Kenny Pickett because Mason Rudolph had taken over. Pickett's got injured and didn't get the job back. So you could argue, well, are they both better than Mason Rudolph? they have. I mean, how do you? Russell Wilson's got this great name, and he's got this legacy from what he did at Seattle. So I don't want to disrespect them by saying, well, Mason Rudolph may have been a better quarterback. Look, Mike Tomlin didn't want Mason Rudolph to go to Tennessee. He didn't want him leaving because he'd been with the Steelers all those years. And Tomlin recognized, maybe I could go back to Mason. He played good for me at the end of the year, but he couldn't promise Mason Rudolph he would start. And Mason Rudolph moved on.
Agreed. So I got the Giants lowdown on Hard Knocks. Normally Hard Knocks is a training camp thing. It's not. It's already been filmed, already been edited. It's set for July 6th. So the way Hard Knocks is covering the Giants has nothing to do with training camp. They are going to be off season, right? Senior Bowl, Combine, free agency, the draft room. This is what they're going to be showing. They're going to be talking about the front office and how it works for the Giants. Now, to me, Jack, I don't know if that's something that, I might take a peek at the draft room to see how that is with the Giants, but I'm not really interested in that. And I don't know if there's any real fans, maybe Giant fans, but does anybody else around the league really care about what the Giants do in the off season?
It's supposed to be entertainment for the viewer. I don't know how they'll make it entertaining. I'm intrigued by the Giant defense, Mac. I'm really intrigued. They might have one of the better defensive units in the NFL if they live up to their potential. If Brian Burns can regain the form he had from a year ago. He didn't have a bad year last year. He had a good year last year, but the year before he was truly elite. If he could get back to that form, and Leonard, Floyd and Thibodeau, if he could follow on the coattails, of the rest of the guys, he's capable of having big games. If he could develop consistency, and Deontay Banks in the backfield, they have something there. But of course, with the Giants, they don't have a real running game. And outside of a rookie Malik Nabers,
that's unfair. That's unfair. What do you mean they don't have a real running game? They don't have Saquon Barkley. That doesn't mean they don't have a real running game, Jack. There's a lot of teams that don't have Saquon Barkley that have real running games. So that's a little harsh, man.
Last year, the Giant running game was Saquon Barkley.
I understand that. But what I'm saying is, but we don't have Saquon Barkley now. We've got a different running back
Devin
now.
Singletary.
To say we don't have a real running game is not quite accurate.
Devin Singletary is solid, but he's just, he's not a game changer. He's not a weapon type of a player.
I agree. And maybe that's good. Maybe that's good because maybe we depended way too much on Saquon Barkley in the past. Maybe we should have got better receivers or developed better receivers when we got him. Maybe that's why we didn't go as far as we could. We went as far as a running back could take us. Maybe that was our problem, Jack.
Yeah.
Anyway, definitely we'll see that. Free agents that could start and make instant impacts on any team. I talked about Brandon Ayuk and T. Higgins. Brandon Ayuk, they got to pay Brock Purdy. There's a couple of people they got to take care of before they get to Brandon Ayuk. He's a real good receiver.
Well,
he could start on
Brock Purdy. He's on.
If they got it over the
rookie deal,
they could do it this year if they wanted, Jack. Right?
No, they can't do it. They're not allowed to when the guy's on this rookie year.
Really?
Yeah, you can't. Even if a team wants to, right? Even if a team wants to extend the guy and give him big money, the Niners organization is restricted. They're not allowed to. That's why it's never an issue with these, rookies. Purdy's been in the league, a couple of years. They just can't do it now. They're not allowed to the Niners.
That's a weird rule. Why wouldn't you let a team allow it if they want to send them to extension?
But
anyway, T. Higgins is another big wide receiver. If he stays healthy, he's a starting, maybe a 1A wide receiver, definitely a 1 wide receiver on a lot of teams. He's been in the rumors going almost everywhere in the NFL. And again, is he worth that money he wants when he's been
Jamar
injured?
Chase is the number one receiver on the Bengals.
I
T.
agree.
Higgins is 1A there. I would
I
let T. Higgins sit. I mean, the Bengals are taking a hardline stance with him. You've got a contract, you play, you want an extension. No, you're not getting it. Play until you become a free agent. Then you can go wherever the heck you want at that point. If these players want a long-term deal, they're thinking, well, just in case I get injured, I want to get all my money in a big deal. Instead of going 1 year at a time, I think he has a contract for $21 million for 1 year. But of course, he wants one of these deals, 80 to 100 million guaranteed, a multi-year deal. And but what about with the Bengals? Let's say he does get injured. Why should the Bengals be on the hook for all that money? Let him play the 1 year, let him have a great year, and then take it into next year.
You say that.
If you get the
You say that,
multi-year
Shaq,
deal.
but there's another way. But there's another way to look at it, just like with Justin Jefferson. If you could trade him before his contract is out and get some nice picks, a first round, second round, whatever, that would be a smart thing to do too. Instead of saying, "Well, don't play." I mean, that's the decisions teams have to make. Is it worth it to have the guy sit out or possibly sit out? Or would you rather say, okay, I'm going to trade you to another team and get some draft picks?
But it doesn't always work out for the player. The player holds out. Let's say the team trades him. His new team usually isn't going to work out a contract. They can't because of the cap. Look what happened with the Jets. They had an outstanding safety in Jamal Adams. Jamal Adams was holding out. He was being a pain in the butt. The Jets traded him to Seattle. Got good draft capital. It turned out to be a good deal for the Jets. He helped Seattle. He was a good player with Seattle. But when he got there, that first year, Seattle wouldn't negotiate a deal. They didn't have the space. So for the most part, Jamal Adams was back to square one. Just like with the Jets, he wasn't getting his new contract. He wasn't getting it with Seattle. He had to wait the whole year before they work something out. And that would be the case even with a player like Justin Jefferson, a T. Higgins. They're not going to get the new contract.
Bad agent. I mean, you go there with the written that you're going to get extension.
They can't afford to Mac.
I hear you. What I'm saying, though, is if I'm the agent of Justin Jefferson, I'm not going to get traded to a team unless they're going to extend me and pay that next contract. I've seen it
Mac,
done.
you have no choice. If a team wants to trade you, they can trade you anywhere unless you have a no trade clause. And
they sure could. And you could play that 1 year and become a free agent too. Whatever.
Exactly. But the point is, Justin Jefferson, let's just take him. If the Vikings traded him elsewhere, any team he went to, in all probability, could not work out a deal with him for this year. So he would have to play under the same terms he would be playing for the Vikings for the next year. So what did he really accomplish? You may as well continue playing for the Vikings, being a team captain, loved by the city, the franchise, who might then sign you to a mega deal. Look, it happened with Stephon Diggs with the Bills. They liked him there. They gave him the big deal. And then they eventually moved on from him. They got tired of him. So now he's with the Houston Texans. But the point is, you tried to force this issue. It's very, very hard to force it with a team.
The two last people I want to talk about, Javon Curse for the Cowboys. They definitely got to sign 3 players before they even look at him. And so he'll probably be going somewhere. Good safety, would be able to help a team out right away. And we talked about Najee Harris and the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's also up in his contract year here. He'll be a free agent next year. They do have a very good running back that pairs with him. Let's see, Jalen Warren, slasher, good hands on the backfield. Najee Harris did drop a couple balls in the playoff game that maybe could have kept drives alive. He's the bruiser. A lot of teams do need a bruiser, Jack. I don't know what will happen with Najee Harris, but if somebody picks him up, he could start right away on a team.
Yeah, he's been hurt a bit, Najee Harris, outstanding play in college. But Najee Harris is another one. The Pittsburgh Steelers look at him, they look at his contract, and they think, is he expendable? We'd like him to stay with the Steelers for years to come, but at a price that we're comfortable with. And Najee Harris wants the big money, and it's unfortunate being a running back too. If Saquon Barkley couldn't get a big deal with the Giants, I mean, is Najee Harris really going to get one with the Steelers? You're right, he's a good back, but they might view him as being replaceable.
Good morning, Robert from Sportscope. Minnesota will regret not trading Jefferson so much draft capital and cap space they could have.
Well, you know,
saved.
part of it too is this, Mac. You got to look at Justin Jefferson if he's going to stay with the Vikings moving forward. Look at the quarterbacks, Sam Darnold, J.J. McCarthy. Are those ideal quarterbacks from? Is that an ideal place for Justin Jefferson? Would the Vikings be better off addressing some other needs that they could get by trading them? But, you know, all the Vikings could do now is get like future considerations. And I think Justin Jefferson would be great with a contender wanting that one final push. We mentioned the Jets before. Imagine teaming him up with Garrett Wilson. That would be like the Rolls Royce of wide receivers. It would be phenomenal. Both guys on each end. I mean, and the Jets would give up a number one next year, I believe.
Justin Jefferson reminds me of a Stephon Diggs. Are you going to bring him in there and he's going to complain all the time?
But Stephon Diggs was an eye guy. He was a distraction. I mean, Justin Jefferson.
I see Justin Jefferson, maybe a younger version of Stephon Diggs right now, Jack, because that's all he's thinking about is himself right now. And you know, whatever. I mean,
you put yourself ahead of
you gotta weigh. You gotta weigh things, Jack. You gotta weigh things. How do you affect the team? How is you being there or not being there? Do you really want to do that to your teammates? It sounds like an eye guy to me. I don't know, but we shall see. I would love all the controversy. I would love all the controversy you would have by getting Jefferson. That'd be like getting Stephon Diggs. I wish you guys picked that.
No, Mac, you could be with a team for 10 years. You could be the most loyal player. You could do everything possible in the community. If they have someone better, they move on from you. So there's no such thing as being selfish, trying to get as much money as you can.
Unless you're willing to take a step back. It's all on the person, Jack. It's all on the person. And some people, the younger you are, normally the more full of vinegar you are. So anyway, one more thing, well, maybe two if we can squeeze it in. NFL thinking about going to Australia to play games, another overseas era. It makes perfect sense to me. Their Australian football is huge over there. It's a great game. I've watched it before. I think they'd love having an NFL game over there. NFL still trying to spread across the world, Jack. So let's see. What else do we got here? MLB news. Talking about Baltimore and New York Yankees being the next great rivalry in the AL East. I don't know if that'll be a great rivalry.
Listen, they're 1-2 right now. But rivalries have to do with personalities too.
Thank you.
And I don't see, the Baltimore Orioles players, for the most part, they're not names. They're not, names the way the Red Sox players used to be. Pedro Martinez, Curt Schilling, Manny Ramirez,
right.
Big Papi, Jason Varitek. They used to be names. They don't jump out at you, the Oriole players.
I agree.
It would have to. He's barely hitting 200, but I've always wanted the Yankees to somehow be able to get him in a deal.
It would take I think a year or two in the Baltimore to continue playing good to the team, get some names so that would become a rivalry. Top 5 right now, power rankings are the Dodgers, Baltimore, the Yankees, Atlanta, Philly being number 1 right now. All got very good pitching staffs. There was I'm not going to go over that now. That I can save for another day. I just want to say before I leave here, Rafael Nevers is a great third baseman. Kind of reminds me he's in the same situation as the former Mets third baseman. Wright used to be very good on a kind of an average team. Hopefully he stays with the Red Sox for his career. But if the Red Sox keep continuing to be average year after year, maybe he doesn't do that, Jack. So I just want to give a plug in for Rafael Devers.
Well, he hit 6 homers in 6 consecutive games, Red Sox records. So kudos to him.
Yes. And that's it for today's show, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the likes and the views. I'll be back tonight on the National Streaming Sports Professional Show. Great show as always. Jack will be back with me on Friday. You folks have a great day, and we'll see you real soon. Have a great one.